Hi, my name is Chris Kandai and I'm delighted to be working with you through the book of Acts. I'm the president of London School of Theology, and our Acts course is one of the ones that students really love, as it just brings alive what the Christian faith really needs to feel like. And there are many similarities between some of the challenges that the earliest church faced and what we, the church, are facing today around the world. And today we get into a little bit of church politics. There's been a bit of a falling out between different groups in the church. Some people are a bit annoyed that Peter has dared to share the gospel with Gentiles. For many Jewish people, and all of the earliest church were Jewish believers. They were people that were brought up in Judaism, just like Jesus was a Jew, and they really couldn't compute that the gospel was for other people apart from the Jewish nation. They were God's chosen people. What would God want to do with those that were outside of Israel? And if you follow the thread through the whole of the Old Testament, actually God's always had a heart for the whole world. If you remember the story of Abraham, when God called Abraham, he said, "I will bless you, and through you all the nations will be blessed." And so here in the book of Acts we see the fulfillment of that. That someone from the line of Abraham, a Jew called Jesus, lived and died on a cross and then rose from the dead and started the church, and it exploded throughout the ancient world. And Peter, one of the earliest followers of Jesus, one of the leaders of the church, was preaching the gospel to a Gentile man, a commander of the Roman legion called Cornelius. And as he preached the gospel, the Holy Spirit came amongst them, and many of them spoke in tongues, and that was proof for Peter that God was at work here and that the Gentiles could become Christians. And Peter had that switched on in his brain. You can read that in Acts chapter 10. And in Acts chapter 11 the story gets told again, and in a short book like Acts, wasting time as it were, telling a story twice seems a bit crazy. But actually in Acts 15 we get the story a third time. So it's almost like it's underlining itself for us, isn't it? Saying, look, this is really important, that the gospel is not just for Jewish people. It's for everybody who will believe in Jesus. And the politics that's going on, some groups are a little bit worried about what's happening here. Have they gone soft on Judaism? Have they given up on the Old Testament law? And Peter defends what's been going on and defends what Paul in particular has been doing, helping Gentile people become Christians. And so today there's a kind of letter that gets written from the church in Jerusalem to the believers in the rest of the world, telling them that they don't need to follow the Old Testament law anymore, that they're welcome into the kingdom. But they do need to be careful to honour God in all of their lives. And some of the ways that people have been living before they became Christians are going to need to change. And he talks about certain things like sexual immorality. He talks about how we'll handle meat and sacrifices that have been offered to idols. All this kind of stuff is important. And but the big message that's going on is to say, look, wherever your background, whether you've got a Jewish heritage, whether you're a pagan Gentile, whether you're Asian like me, you're all welcome into God's family. And I guess as you read this, I want you to spend time thanking God that God is the Father and King and the Master of all creation, and all the nations belong to him. And then maybe you want to look around your neighbourhood, you want to look around your school, or look around your family and say, God, there are people in my family, in my sphere, that don't yet know you. Please help me find a way to make them welcome into your kingdom. Have a great time reading the rest of the book of Acts.